want to introduce us a little bit. Our office is Thurlow Small Architecture, and we were started in 2001, and we've incorporated in 2006. And the two partners are Andrew Thurlow and myself. And we just wanted to begin actually by thanking the Roger Williams University assistants in filming of the lecture so that we can actually have this online. And what we're going to talk about today are a little bit of the sort of strategies that we use in our work, and particularly, of course, in terms of digital technology, specifically that we are an all-digital office. That's how we do everything from design process into production, and we're actually much more involved in the kind of fabrication side of things as well. So we're really kind of using digital technology in its fullest extent as much as possible. We're really interested in systems and processes. So to some extent, we're really interested in how architecture is a set of systems, not just an individual set of products or an individual design that may be produced on a particular site. So some of our original interests had to do with looking at architectural units that could be mobile. So in this case, this was the design of an HIV/AIDS mobile medical clinic for sub-Saharan Africa. So we were looking at a lot of ways in which the structure and the skin systems work together, and we used ideas of the fabrication and CNC milling to begin to think about how changes in the surface of the inside of the unit could be related to indications on the outside of the unit. So the interior skin and the exterior skin had a kind of unique relationship. We looked at manufactured housing. That was one of our first major research topics, looking at how you could take a particular unit that would transform and engage a landscape. In this case, also it could be multiple, so you could replicate, and there would be variation in each one. So it went down actually to a kind of panel system where each house would have a unique set of sort of skins that would do programmatic things on the outside as well. So a sort of difference in repetition in the way that fabrication could occur. It would be just as easy to make 1,000 different exterior panel systems as one that's repeated the same. And that's really afforded by digital technology. So we actually have done a lot of testing in the fabrication side, taking these just digital surfaces that have complex curvature from initial studies and replications and iterations through to actually fabrication with the CNC mill. This is an example of a pink foam example, actually, of an elevation of one of those manufactured housing units. We've looked at, this is actually an art pavilion for an urban location and a set of modular pieces that could be replicated and moved around to have different kinds of configurations. So the digital technology here affords us a way of thinking about kind of replication and duplication and iteration. And also, of course, it allows us to think about how it actually is made. So in this case, we also have tried different material studies. We've tried this out of metal as well as out of bent plywood, laminated plywood. We also imagined different kinds of lamination strategies. And then, of course, we've 3D print a number of our projects, which is another kind of use of the technology, going from a digital model into an analog fabrication at a smaller scale. A tea house that we designed originally for some clients in western Massachusetts. And then we just saw this as a much more portable object that could be mass-produced and mass-customized as well. Again, thinking about systems, imagining how a skin surface could have different kinds of ornament applied as part of the structuring and of the kind of surface technique and graphic design as well. So in this case, we have a kind of tile system. And then we've done interior panels. This was a set of panels that actually worked as a kind of screen system for a fashion designer in her studio, looking at, again, kind of repetitious patterns with variability. And this was also produced on the mill. And then we've looked at interior strategies. This was a kind of interior skin for a clothing store. And in this case, it would actually be a kind of surface that would modulate and change as per the program on the interior. So we tried a lot of different strategies for sort of pushing and pulling the skin surface, imagining how this could actually be made of a resin. And this is an example of what it would look like in its location. But again, it's sort of system-based. So we have this one set of strategies for how to create something that's really powerful and beautiful, that has a certain technique and material quality that engages the program. And we looked at how this could be an extended surface. It could wrap the entire store, or it could be quite small, depending on the budget of the client. But our systematic strategies have also kind of propelled themselves into landscapes, looking at, in this case, the competition entry for the Hadspin Garden, and in this case, parterre strategies, looking at replication and iteration in landscape. We looked at a Highline proposal for New York City. Of course, this is actually being built now, but of course not our version. But we looked at how there could be different programmatic strategies that would replicate and continue down the length of an existing structure that would allow for a set of greenhouses and systems. This was for a green stop along a highway in California. There would be more kind of iterative panel systems that would move along the length that would engage the landscape. So in this case, there would also be a kind of agriculture component moving to the landscape. But again, as a system, this can start and stop. It can be something where you have a very, very small number of them, or it could be much bigger, where it actually is something that continues depending on the full needs of that particular location. This is for the Beale Street Landing in Memphis, looking at a kind of edge strategy between the Mississippi River and the city of Memphis, thinking about how a kind of community, an urban community, can engage a changing waterfront. So there's a sort of continuity and variability to the surface and landscape and program of this particular public space. And one for a kind of dramatic one for a density proposal for National Laboratory in Oak Ridge, looking at how they could imagine taking a set of existing systems and adding to them to create a kind of new campus within an existing valley. So a lot of our projects are really, we don't think about architecture at a building scale. We imagine architectural systems, architecture with a small a that engages a kind of design process in the digital environment, allows us to kind of try various strategies, iterations, algorithms, look at replication, look at the benefits of the options that we get. Scale comes into it, of course. It's very important once it's relating to its particular site or context. But really, a lot of these systems have no scale, so they can work in very, very small instances, but they can also be brought to this very sort of extreme and extra large environment. And now we're going to move on to the first project. The first project we'd like to talk about is called Working Planet, and it was the design of an interior for Working Planet Marketing Group, which is a web marketing company in Providence, Rhode Island. And they were interested in purchasing an existing building, and they wanted to completely create a new interior system that would, in essence, be their brand as well. So we really thought about how the company would propel itself in a way, its image through the architecture. And they were very interested in taking a warren of spaces, creating a new large open space, looking at how a set of office spaces would work so that you had a kind of variable condition between different programmatic zones, as well as they were interested in eventually actually tearing down the whole building and building a new project. So we had a couple of really key components to the design. One was the temporary nature of what we designed. The second was a lot of kind of variable conditions between programmatic spaces and how we could set up a really interesting internal architectural kind of lining system that would allow for sound, air, light to travel through it. So we came upon the idea of tubes. And this is a set of tubes that work as a kind of overall strategy where you stack the tubes together. It gives you a kind of variable system that can start and stop, that can have greater height, lower height, where you can see through in some cases, not in other cases.